May's coming up, and while I'm confident that we're going to see several campaigns, a whole bunch of campaigns that cross the 500,000 mark, I think we're only going to see 2 that cross 1 million. Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and I should be more specific, 2 from the ones that I'm talking about. I cannot make any predictions about any campaigns that I do not have dates for, and this is upcoming Kickstarters for May. We're going to be going over the Kickstarters for May and the Gamefounds, of course, the Kickstarters and Gamefounds that I currently have information for, and as usual, Shelf Clutter is the channel you want to subscribe to in case you want more accurate, more updated information. I'll have a link to his channel down below, do this every single month, but basically, I cover all the Kickstarters for May, and I always say all the Kickstarters, and I always correct it with the Gamefounds and not all, the ones that I know about. The usual spiel, same thing every single month, but as usual, Shelf Clutter is usually a place to go if you want to get a little bit more accurate information about all the stuff that's happening. He covers more campaigns, he has more updated information, he does this every single Sunday, so you get to see, or Saturday, one of those two, but he does it every single week, so you can see ongoing updated information. It's basically, if you like this type of content, but you actually like it more accurate, then Shelf Clutter is the place to go. And with that, let's go ahead and start this off, starting off with the first of our May 2nd Kickstarters, specifically Ra. Ra from 20th Century Games is the new version of Ra with art by Ian O'Toole, which has been very controversial. I am a huge fan of the art, but I've seen people who are like, oh, it looks like a color palette threw up on a board. I hear you. I like the look. It looks elegant-ish with colors. Like, I think it's as elegant as you can get with a hodgepodge of colors, but I actually like the look. Either way, I'm getting sidetracked. Ra is going to be a reprint of, well, Ra. It's a newer version of Ra that will now be in print once again with a new publisher. Ra is from Reina Knizia, and it's one of the more popular, more famous auction games out there. Tremendous game. I have coverage on my channel already. You can check that out. No changes from the actual rules. A few quality of life changes in terms of player aids and stuff like that. A little change to the boat moving along the track, but no strictly speaking rules changes to the experience. Ra is a solid auction game. Going to be on Gamefound on May 2nd. From there, we have a bunch of May 3rd campaign, starting off with Euthia, Torment of Resurrection. Euthia of Torment of Resurrection by Dia Games. This is the expansion and reprint to Euthia, or 2 expansions actually. This is going to be bringing you Euthia, which is an RPG-ish adventure game. Think Mage Knight. It's very similar to Mage Knight, while being very different than Mage Knight. It's more accessible, it's easier to dive into, lots of rules, but once you dive into them, rules are very easy to understand, very clear to go through, so worth checking it out in case you find Mage Knight a harder game to table. They're going to be bringing a reprint of the base game, because that was out over on Kickstarter, who knows how long ago, and recently landed. It's a gigantic box. It's completely off the top. It's crazy. And then they're also going to be bringing you 2 expansions as well. They're going to be bringing more content. We have the Fierce Powers expansion, which is going to be confronting dark forces tormenting the land in new scenarios, new companions, new stuff, new abilities for all the characters. That's a fun one, by the way. If you like the characters from the base game, they're going to be adding new abilities for all the characters that already exist. And then we have the Fellowship expansion, which is bringing you a bit more of a confrontational solo or cooperative game mode, bringing it a little bit less about pure point scoring and focusing on a bunch of challenging scenarios to actually have more of a full-on win-lose condition. It's already scenario-based, it's already case-by-case, but it's really leaning into the co-op and solo play as being stronger elements of the game. There's a lot going on here. The box for this is completely overwhelming. I have an unboxing on my channel. You can check that out. I will have review content for the base game, not the expansions, before things go up, but it's a solid game, worth paying attention to, very ambitious, very large. Make sure you have the table space, the time, the energy, and the attention, but this is Euthia, Torment of Resurrection, and expansions. Another May 3rd title is going to be The Flood. The Flood, which is ironically not called The Ark. I don't know if ironically is, I should say mistakenly, perhaps mistakenly. Either way, this should be called the Ark because it has nothing to do with the actual flood. It has to do with the Ark. I guess technically it has nothing to do with the Ark. It's building the Ark. What you're doing here is you're gathering the resources as you figure out how to build the Ark before the flood comes. The flood is more dramatic. It's a good title. But if you check out this board over here, it's a resource game. It's a resource game about building out the Ark. Not that I have any problem with that. I am still very intrigued. The art looks great. The little miniatures and sculpts look great. It almost looks like it's basically a Catan variant to a degree, which I don't mind as long as it's actually good. I tend to like games where you roll dice and everyone gets things, and I think this has that mechanic. I tend to like that. We'll see. The real question is, does it drift a little too similar to Catan that I'd rather just play Catan? I mean, we literally have piles of cards, we have dice rolling, we have a bunch of hexagonal tiles, it seems like you're building stuff. It almost seems like someone took Catan, copied it a bit too closely. At the end of the day, if they manage to produce a game that I like, I don't care. Innovation breeds, iteration upon innovation can deliver great games. If it's just a, past version of Catan, I don't necessarily need it, despite the art. And I like the theme too, because, religious art with stuff like that, whatever it is. Anyways, Let's move on to Creators of the First Dawn, another May 3rd title. This is the second last of our May 3rd titles. Creators of the First Dawn is going to be a strategy game that I don't have a lot of information on this one. This is what I have over here currently, just this page over here. A little bit of information on Board Game Geek, but not a lot more. So it's a building strategy game with magic, tactics, and unique mechanics. Links to everything down below, so anything you want to subscribe to, get that early bird warning, all those details, links to every single Kickstarter and Gamefound that I talk about down below. Our final May 3rd title is going to be Keresis, which is a kind of a hodgepodge of a bunch of things together. Keresis, we've talked about it briefly before. Basic idea is kind of imagine a little bit of Tsuro combined with a little bit of area control, combined with a little bit of powers and abilities. It's a very interesting tile-laying dungeon adventure, but not really a dungeon crawl in typical sense. But it has a little of area control, a little bit of combat and fighting, kind of a lot of mechanics kind of shoved together in a way that we'll see how well it does or doesn't do. But that's Keresis coming to Kickstarter on May 3rd. From there into the May 5th category, we have Age of Steam Deluxe Expansions Volumes 1, 2, and 3. This is the deluxe version of Age of Steam. Basically, they already had, Eagle Games did a deluxe version of Age of Steam a year and a half ago, or something like that. And they're now, in Age of Steam, if you don't know, is a game that has, well, it has a million maps. It has, literally, if you go to board games on Board Game Geek and you look at Age of Steam and then you click on the expansions tab, there's like 100 plus pages of expansions. It's a crazy number. It's absolutely obscene, but you can't get all whatever number of those. You could get 13 of them, which is a much more reasonable number, honestly. But this is going to be the deluxeified version, bringing you the same art, the same matching, same compatibility. It looks like it's bringing it to you in 3 different volumes, which is very intriguing to me, because how do you divide 13 by 3? The answer is you don't. So how does that work? Is that, 4, 4, and 5? Is that 8, 3, and 2? Is that even for that's 13? Yeah, but I don't know how they're dividing it. It looks like they have 3 different volumes, so we'll see what actually happens. But this is a whole bunch of maps for Age of Steam. There'll likely be a pledge for 1, 2, and 3 volumes, and then a much more compelling price point for buying all 3 at once if you want to, but you don't have to. You could just get the idea. It's more maps for Age of Steam. If you're a fan of Age of Steam, you know this is a thing. If you're new to Age of Steam, I'm sure there'll be a way to jump in on the base game. And speaking for myself, I personally prefer Steam, just for the record. I mean, they're very, very similar. Steam, Age of Steam, and Railways of the World, all very similar games. My preference is Steam. I've played all 3. I like Steam the best. Probably then Railways, probably then Age of Steam. It's not that Age of Steam is a bad game. Age of Steam is a great game. It's just brutally punishing, and I like more the fun engine building Euro aspect with a little less of the, hey, you're in abject poverty because you made the wrong move on the first turn of the game. Although I do like splatter games, so maybe I'm just vastly inconsistent with my gaming tastes. Anyways, moving on to the Hunt for the Lost Creatures. This is going to be a May 10th title. We have a few of these in May 10th titles. Hunters of the Lost Creatures is a game of trying to gather lost creatures. You have a bunch of creatures, all mythical creatures with their little, the melancholy flower, the chameleon, the dandelion, the dandelion, whole bunch of these things, the blue shark, just a bunch of pun jokes around various creatures and entities, a piece of crab, we see there, goldfish, all fun stuff like that. But the game seems to rely on an element of being mindful of what other players are going for and trying to play your cards around that, which is actually something we've just seen in Birds of a Feather in North America, which is just on Kickstarter. Same surface level idea of kind of seeing what people are going for and trying to predict and outplay what they're doing. A game looks cutesy, looks fun, has some fart jokes in there. If that's your thing, kind of turns me away whenever that happens. I'm not into that kind of stuff as much, but the art and the puns and all those things. This is Lost Creatures, the game, coming to Kickstarter on May 10th. I think Kickstarter. It might be Gamefound, but I think Kickstarter on May 10th. Next up, we have Tiny Epic Vikings. This is the first of the $1 million campaigns that I'm predicting. I specifically predicted, if I recall correctly, I think I called this coming in at 1.6. I think it's going to be lower than Tiny Epic Dungeons because I think the Dungeons is more of an appealing thing. Although the 10,000 backers we already have, 10,000 followers on the page that we already have, does have me questioning whether my early prediction of 1.6 million is too low. We'll see. I'm curious, but it's definitely going to cost $1 million. I say definitely with no confidence other than the confidence of someone who can just say something and not have any consequences of being wrong past shame, the shamillion. That's the thing. Tiny Epic Vikings. This is basically Tiny Epic Blood Rage. It's not actually Tiny Epic Blood Rage, but it does seem it's going to have 3 rounds of play. It's going to have a bunch of characters. You're going to be playing down your cards to grow and augment your tribe. And without seeing the rules more, it does seem like it's leaning a bit into Tiny Epic Blood Rage. I mean, we have drafting an area of control across 3 rounds of play. That's got to be a little Tiny Epic Blood Rage right there. By the way, I have no problem with that. Honestly, I'm kind of upset that they didn't speak to Come On and just literally get the licensing deals, whatever it is, for having Tiny Epic Blood Rage. I'd be all in on that, probably until I played it, and then I'd be like, why am I not just playing Blood Rage? But we'll see. Time will tell on this one. I am intrigued by this one. Tiny Epic Vikings, we'll have to take a look. This will be coming on May 10th from Gameland Games, the newest game in their line of series. The real question I have is, Does Tiny Epic Blood Rage pull more people in than Tiny Epic Dungeons? Again, I think not. I think it's going to be 1.6 million. Hope I'm wrong. Hope it does better. We'll see. Moving on to the next one, we have I don't know how to pronounce this. I'm not even going to try. It's either like Sari or Saray or Sar or Ser. It could be any of these things. I don't know, and there's no video that I can watch that tells me how it's pronounced. This is the game that you see on the page. It's actually not even the game you see in front of you. It's really, this over here is the game, okay? This is a game that I don't have a lot of information about it past what we see on the page over here, but it does look semi-intriguing. It's going to be a game which there's a degree of push your luck around the gathering of resources you need to build your buildings. The problem is I don't know what that push your luck means. I don't know how it actually implements this over here, what I'm seeing on the screen. Looks solid, looks intriguing. Also, I don't imagine this is an actual board game and components you're seeing here. Way too colorful and detailed. This looks like just art, although art on a board game. So I got nothing. I got nothing about this game. It's on Gamefound. You can go ahead and follow it and see more information. They seem to be implying you get a full game as a gift for following. I'm not entirely sure. You see follow and pledge and you'll get a free gift. And it's showing their last game, which is a smaller box game. Does that mean you get the free gift of their last game? It's worth a follow, if nothing else. 610 people following it. And then as we find out more information, you can find out if it's a game for you, because I got nothing so far. From there we have Resist from Salt and Pepper Games. This is another, that's not, and by the way, sorry, it's May 11th. This one over here is May 12th. Resist by Salt and Pepper Games, designed by David Thompson and a few other designers. I just happen to know him, so like I know his name. But this is going to be leaning a bit into it's a solo game, pure solo game, which you're going to be trying to survive across variable numbers of play or whatnot. The Board Game Geek listing actually has a bit more information about how it plays, but it seems like it has technically a bag building, deck building kind of pool, but it seems like it's more about management of the deck as opposed to pure deck building. There's going to be a degree of trying to be mindful of when to take cards to actually cash in on their benefits to help you survive right now versus when you try to hold on to them for later, because they'll be more advantageous if you can survive without them for right now. I don't know much about the game past what Board Game Geek says about it, but it is one that is from David Thompson, and everything he touches that I've played has been at the very least very, very good. So that's usually a good bar to go with. That's going to be Resist on Gamefound, 13 days to go, 1,200 people following it, and that's Resist. Next up, we have the Artemis Project Satellites and Commanders. This is coming May 17th to Kickstarter, and this is an expansion to the Artemis Project, and that I have not played, but hope to be diving into shortly. This is an expansion, bringing you satellites and commanders. Not heavily going to go into detail on that, because I don't have more information, and we've talked about it a few times, because the Kickstarter has been pushed off. I mean, not right now. Right now, it's May 17th. Honestly, more and more, I've seen so many of these campaigns be pushed off again and again and again. I don't know what the process is, but we keep seeing games like, hey, it's coming now, and then it's coming later, and then it's coming later, and then it's coming later. It's happening to a lot of titles more and more every single month, which is why I tend to get like a little bit less informational about some of those things again and again and again. We have Keresis Studios bringing you the game of what's it called again? This one's called Kingdoms of Akandia. Kingdoms of Akandia coming to you May 17th. This is an RPG cooperative adventure game. It looks like there's a whole lot of things going on. This is one that I don't know all the stuff that's going to be happening in this. I'll have links to the page and the Kickstarters in general, by the way. Most of the time my links will go directly to the Kickstarter, so you can hit that notify me button, but like in this case you could search for just Kingdoms of Arcadia and find more information about it directly on their site. But they have a whole lot of information here about the hero abilities, about the upgrading, the rare abilities you're going to be upgrading over here, the group abilities you can use, a whole bunch of things going on. I'm interested, but I need to see more, and the art is not pulling me in. It's very much leaning into more of an older style of art that we see in older dungeon crawlers, things we've actually seen recently in other games as well, that just doesn't pull me in quite as much, but that doesn't mean it won't pull you in, and there's like 2,500 people following the campaign already. That's Kingdoms of Akandia. Moving on, we have Union Stockyards. Union Stockyards, 2 to 5 player game. This is one that I don't have the Kickstarter link to just yet. I just have the Board Game Geek link at the moment, but supposedly launching May 17th, unless we see something get pushed off. This is going to be a supply and demand. It's going to be a market game where they have a market with supply and demand that's supposed to be supposedly central to the game mechanic. It's going to be a heavily worker placement game as you place your workers, as you manage these meat factories and trying to get the competitive advantages you can have, battling labor strikes, all these different things. Looks intriguing. Art looks good. Duan Wolf, Solid Rock Games. This is Union Stockyards on May 17th. From there, we have The Breach. The Breach coming to you May 24th on Kickstarter. The Breach from Ludus Magnus Studios. This is a competitive game. It's competitive because it sounds cooperative at first, meaning it's a bunch of hackers trying to hack into the corporation, which makes you kind of think that you're all on the same team, but you're not on the same team. You're fighting against the corporation you're getting into Genesis, gen.sys, which is like Genesis, but it's like a sys file. It all makes sense if you hack stuff, which I hack stuff all the time. But yeah, we have The Breach from Ludus Magnus Studios. They're leaning into these miniature styles you can see over here. Look very, very incredible. Curious what they will look like in person, and sculpts always look better in general. On the other hand, they do have solid miniatures. I mean, Ludus Magnus Studios has done Black Rose Wars, which has some of the best miniatures I've seen in board gaming. So, we'll see. We'll see where it ends up going. But this one is one in which you're playing as hackers, you're hacking to the corporation, you're trying to gather data, you're being mindful of other hackers. I mean, look at this stuff. It looks very cool. It's not going to look this good. It's not. This looks amazing. It has me really, really wanting to dive into the game, but obviously I'm being completely swayed by the shiny, so time will tell when we actually have a chance to dive into this competitive hacking game from Ludus Magnus Studios. From there, we have Batman Gotham City Chronicles. This is Season 3 and RPG. This is another May 24th title. This is Batman Season 3 from Monolith Games, as well as Batman RPG, combining you both. So the Season 3 is old. We have Batman, we have Season 2, we have the Season 3 coming shortly, May 24th. This is another one that was pushed off multiple times. And then we have the RPG as well, all being bundled together in the same Kickstarter. I'm sure you'll have the opportunity to get them separately. I'm sure you'll have the opportunity to get them together, whatever it is you want. For me, Batman, I mean, the sheer amount of content Batman has just has me intimidated. The base game was already intimidating, and then like Season 2, Season 3, just tons and tons of stuff. It's a game I want to play. I want to like. I mean, I like the miniatures are amazing. The Batman as a concept is amazing, and the RPG obviously I have no interest in because I don't play RPGs, at least not yet. But that is Batman Gotham City Chronicles Season 3, etc. All of that. We have Bark Avenue. Bark Avenue, the last of the May 24th titles. Obviously, last meaning from the ones I'm covering. Bark Avenue. This is coming from Paradise Games. They're actually some content creators on YouTube. You should check out their channel, Paradise Games. They cover a whole bunch of stuff. And this is the competitive dog walking game on the streets of New York City. You're going to be leveling up your dog walker so they can manage more cards, manage more dogs as you're walking around the park. You're going to be trying to manage their abilities. You're going to try to manage the dogs and their requirements. Which dogs want to be with which dogs? How long do they want to walk? What do their owners want? You're trying to manage a whole bunch of a variety of criteria as you do this almost pick up and deliver kind of game with dogs and abilities and leveling up. So it's tableau building. It's multiple point scoring. A whole bunch of things mixed in. Very intrigued by this one. I'm not a dog person in general. I'm not even a pet person in general. I kind of slightly like cats. I had a cat growing up, so I kind of like cats, but if you ignore the theme for a second, I'm intrigued by what the point scoring and all the stuff does in this game. From there, we have Amygdala. Amygdala is a May 30th title. This is one that I have very little information on, past the fact that it's from Game Brewer, and it's in their list. They keep a list of games that are coming up. This is going to be a Kramer and Kiesling game. That already has me intrigued. This is Game Brewer. That already has me intrigued. Whether or not I dive into this one, I need more information on this one. It's a game about managing your emotions in some way. You're going to be storing your emotional resources, so I mean, I could probably use some help on storing my emotional resources and figuring that kind of thing out. But we'll see. Amygdala going to be coming to Gamefound. As of right now, it's coming to Gamefound on May 30th. We'll find out more information as we have it. I just don't have it. From there, and lastly, not entirely lastly from the games I have titles for, I have like 5 or 6 that don't have titles, but we have RuneScape Kingdom Shadows of Elvarg. This is coming to Kickstarter on May 30th. This is coming to you from Steamforged Games, who just delivered Bardsung. I just unboxed Bardsung. You can check out that video as well. I've been diving into Bardsung. I'm enjoying it, but we have to wait until I need more plays before I can, talk about it more. Hopefully, you know what? I'll try to have a review of Bardsung up before this Kickstarter goes live. I've already started diving into it, so that should be doable. Obviously, I won't complete it, but if I can get 10, 20 hours under my belt, that's good enough for me. But either way, Bardsung, for context, by the way, I don't know if you backed Bardsung, but if you did, do you know what prices of that game are going for on the secondhand market? I mean, an all-in pledge of Bardsung that would have cost you like £220 is going for like $650 on eBay right now, which is absolutely insane. I did say that game would hold its value, but there's holding its value and there's holding its value, and this one is definitely the latter of those two things. Either way, we're getting Sidescape. This is RuneScape Kingdom Shadows of Elvarg from Steamforged Games. I generally have it's so interesting. I love Resident Evil from them. I like Bardsung. I'm curious whether it grows for me or not. I like Monster Hunter World. Resident Evil for me is the highlight so far, but RuneScape Kingdom seems to be a little Bardsung adjacent, giving you an accessible, not really dungeon crawler, but more of an adventure as you choose different points in the map, as you dive into them, as you level up your characters, as you encounter various baddies. So it does seem a little Bardsung adjacent, but a little more focused on an overall map that you're diving into as opposed to a pure dungeon crawler. I don't have more information yet. Hopefully I will. We'll see. But this is RuneScape Kingdoms coming May 30th over on Kickstarter from Steamforged Games. We currently have, 7,500 people following it? This is going to be a big campaign. I'm curious. Now, this, by the way, speaking of which, what's my other prediction for $1 million campaign is Batman Season 3. I think this is the other one that's going to cross 1 million, and then I think there are a bunch that will cross 500,000, including the RuneScape Kingdoms over here. The original Bardsung as a campaign crossed 1 million. I don't know if RuneScape Kingdoms will or won't. 7,500 backers is very compelling. It might cross 1 million. I'm not willing to call that just yet. Or should I be nice? You know what? No, I'm going to say it's going to cost 1 million. I think, especially combined with anyone who picks up on the fact that Bardsung did tremendously well in the secondhand market, I think RuneScape Kingdoms, I'm going to give a third prediction for over 1 million. So we have Tiny Epic Vikings, we have Batman Season 3, and we have Bardsung that I'm predicting RuneScape. Jeez, I'm going to keep doing that. RuneScape as being the third game that will cross $1 million on Kickstarter, and then a whole bunch of others that will cross 500,000. I think The Breach will cross 500,000, maybe not 1 million, and I'm realizing I'm not even done yet. From the next 5 we have over here are just generic May titles, which also means they may not be in May. Generally, when I don't have a title, there's even more of a chance that it might be pushed off, so we'll see. I will have links to all these down below. We have Drop Bears from Platypus Industries. This is going to be a game about drop bears in Australia. It's a dangerous place. Don't walk around too much. We have Fire for Light, which is likely coming back in May. This one canceled last month, and they're likely coming back in May. We'll see. Time will tell. But this is Fire for Light from Greenbrier Games. Then we have Dunhuang Pearl on the Silk Road. This has been pushed off multiple times, so I don't have a date for this one. I've talked about it in the past. It may show up in May. I don't know. We have Silvercoin Age of Monster Hunters. There's a chance this one shows up late May. This is looking a little Witcher adjacent in terms of you and the other players hunting monsters and trying to, well, hunt monsters better than the other players. And then lastly, we have Moon. Moon is the third game from the Villagers and then Streets series. It's coming to you from Sinister Fish Games. It's a pick and pass base building game, which I think just means it's a drafting game, which if it is, that's great. I love drafting. Pick and pass, that's just drafting, isn't it? But I'm intrigued. I like drafting as a mechanic. I haven't actually, Villagers I liked, but I didn't love. Streets I didn't dive into yet. I'm very intrigued about Moon and would love to dive into that one. But that's everything. That's all the stuff we have, as usual. Reminder, Shelf Clutter, in case you want to go ahead and subscribe over there. But past that, these are the campaigns we're looking at. I'm predicting, I'm predicting $3 million campaigns, Tiny Epic Vikings, RuneScape, and Batman Season 3. We'll see what else happens, and we'll have to take a look. Last month I made a few predictions, but there's still some that are running, so I have to wait and see until the month is up to get a better feel for that. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. There'll be links to all of these down below, and as always, have a good one.